Abiy Ahmed is addressing the parliament there. Let's listen in.
And the journey of reform, and it has been in several challenges. And I will also highlight on where we are right now, and I believe that's important. Most of the questions talk about the stance of the government saving the lives of citizens, and these are questions of livelihood. As much as possible, if not everything, I'll try to show you how it looked like from the beginning. First of all, in the past 27 years, the inhuman treatments that took place in the country and the thirst for democracy and good governance in our country is definitely not what I will be covering, because the House knows it very well, despite the fact that the people might from time to time forget what they've been into. I'm sure they will remember, and I will not talk much about that. 1 or 2 months after the reform will be the timeline where I'll begin my narration. As you may remember, 2.5 years ago, a month or two before the reform, there were several conflicts, expropriations taking place in the country, and burying several bodies in one hole, suppressing and subjecting people to cruelty. It was widely observed. Following the reform, we have faced several challenges. The trend that has continued till day, the people who graduated from the same college are causing these acts, and we have to remember this background. Within that time, there were several complainings, warnings, and the tactic they used was to make the people worry, to arrest a lot of people altogether, and to suppress the situation. For example, during the time of the celebration of Recha, the institution that existed to safeguard the country would print so many flags of opposing teams and make them carry it on the street, and would arrest them and use it as a context. And other locations, they will arrest a lot of people for carrying a flag that doesn't have the emblem. This affected the need for the people for change, the need for change. It did not stop that need. Because of that, right before the reform, there were discussions and attempts for a coup. That discussion for coup d'etat, when it was heard by Prime Minister Haile Mariam Desalegn, said, "I'm here to serve. There is no need for a coup d'etat. If you think you don't need Haile Mariam, I'm ready to leave my chair at any time," and said there's no need for it, and discussed it with the relevant people. And the rest of us were saying, this is not a coup d'etat, this is a coup of a single person. How does a government coup itself? How do you coup your own intelligence? And the discussion of the coup d'etat was reversed, and the discussion started on who the person will be succeeding
ጠቅላይ ሚኒስትር
Prime Minister
ኃይለማርያም
ኃይለማርያም
የሚቀመጠው ሰው በእኛ ፍላጎትና መሻት መሆን አለበት የሚለውን ለማረጋገጥ
in order to ensure the next person will be their favorite person.
ቀጣይ አመራር መሆን ይችላሉ
There was
ግለሰቦች
a list of people
ማድረግ ጀመሩ አክቲቭ ሰርቪላንስ ማለት
on whom an active surveillance was done to see if they can be capable. So behind our back, with us knowing they were surveilling us. There was a car right outside of my gate following me to my office, and it was there wherever I go. Not hidden, but in public. This was also the same for other comrades. There was no need to worry much. You don't need to spend fuel on us. There are several other matters that you need to worry about, not us. But it didn't stop there. There were more tensions. For instance, in Oromia office, the president's office and the office of OPDO, all the towers were surrounded by shotguns. There were patrols on our gates, or the buildings around us were surrounded by surveillance. During the time, few persons sat and discussed. There could be killings at any time. The struggle we started should not be interrupted. We assumed as if we were killed, as if we were finished. We documented a video that said the government is oppressing us, is going to kill us, and so on. And we kept those videos with people close to us, and we told them to release the video as soon as if those things happen. It was clear that a danger could occur at any time. Following the surveillance, we did a discussion. We had a discussion with the rulers of EPRDF, and they released an order for arrest. This was 5-10 days before our election. There was an order to arrest. It was written. All this was intended towards removing the people wanted and to put in place persons that look like governments but puppets. Were anti this activity, and many were following the situation closely, and most of them were futile. The Prime Minister, the Deputy Prime Minister had the desire for reform and for the reform to be successful. Not only that, since there were people coming and going between the two groups, we were sending the information they want to hear, and we were also learning about what they were doing, and it gave us time to prepare. When we moved to the election, the first election under EPRDF for the first time in history was directed towards brainwashing and changing the minds of people through evaluations. We were assembling a lot, but there was no fruit in those meetings. And on the day of the election, we were discussing on the criteria for election. As you might have heard, it was full of debate. It was nothing less than the war we're having at the moment. And the assembly of the junta was fighting from the side, did a widespread activity, and at a time around 10 p.m. they said we won the election and started celebrating. Before that,
It is in our dead body.
They said it's only in our dead body that these people will come to position. Everywhere you go, wherever they're dancing. After doing that, they faced an unprecedented loss, and those members of EPRDF that wanted change, reform, spearheaded the activities. EPRDF had a lot of discussions, debates to just elect one person. When we met in 4 months in Asa, I mean, a person's perception won't change that quick. In 10 minutes, except for one person, the remaining 100% voted in just 4 months' time. But one voice was given to me. I voted for my friends. The remaining 100% voted. What does it mean? 3 months prior to that, there was not the need for that kind of debate. Had that been necessary 3 months after that, when there were votings, they would not have given their voices. I would like to make this a background for the House. The second one, after the reform, and after the reform, leaders came to power, the special force was under oppression and wanted to do arresting, surveillances and so on. And the people of Ethiopia were oppressed and had hatred. There were oppositions at the time. In that situation, if we did reform in the country at that time the way it was done before, we would have destroyed each other. Some were oppressed, others were privileged. And because the other group did not have weapons, there would have been killings in the people. So we said, let's have a reform. Let's not have conservative views. Let's avoid debates, unnecessary debates, and let's change the narrative. So we said, let's not say we'll destroy you because you cause damage. We said the damage could be averted in 2 ways. One is vengeance, the other one is through giving a leeway. We said, let's give them, let them say sorry. If we raise the problems of the past, they were subjected to many cruelty, that lost their fathers, their mothers. And there are so many people that left the country and died in the ocean, fleeing the government. If we take vengeance, of course there will be mass death. So let's come to agreement, peace and love. The politics of hatred never helped us. Starting from zero is pulling Ethiopia backwards. So we said, let this be it. And all the different sessions we had, we communicated the same to the people. And after saying that, the next action should be an all-inclusive government, a comprehensive one. When we say by all, each and every person should contribute a grain of sand, When we say for all, there should not be discrimination between who benefits and who don't, honor and not. And when we say for all, we said so that everyone can benefit equitably. So this is what we wanted to develop. And when we raised the question, they said, you're preaching. This is just a preach. You cannot rule a country by preaching. Ruling a country, they said, should be saying what you say to the people and killing at the back. And they said, you cannot talk about love and rule a country. And they said the government is weak in the end. Perhaps a government is weak. A government is the coming together is not the individual's strengths, rather it's the strengths of institutions. And after developing an institution in a wrong way, of course, you can say the government is weak. A government that doesn't have institutions is weak, no matter what the individuals are. Therefore, on this track, in order to change the existing scenario, did not receive commencement. The Honorable House, many politicians, media started asking why hasn't the government taken actions immediately? Was it not possible to take actions at the time? And there are questions like this raised from time to time. This issue has differences between want and action. We can always wish for something, we can dream, we can undertaking it requires institutional capacity. The major political challenge we have as a country, both on the side of the ruling and the opposition and the individuals, is before we do something, we don't have analysis of power. One government, one party, in all its activities, can only be a winner when it has sufficient knowledge-based, data-based power analysis. What's the power within the inside and in the outside? And if there are conflicts, what are the wins and losses? And these require analysis. Since we don't do that, a person will just rise up and say, I'll be a government. In order to be a government, you need to understand your enemies, you need to understand yourself and the capabilities of your enemy, identifying your capacity and how you can wear down your enemy. You cannot just assemble and become a party in just 6 months and say you'll win. It's just a wish. That's why in the past 40 years we've had political parties that never succeeded, that never made it to power. So the power ranking analysis requires deep analysis. It will just be a wish otherwise. Moreover, we need to also have situational analysis. The institution called government, what does it look like? What does oppositions look like as an institution? What do the neighboring countries look like? What kind of operations will be successful? We need to have such kind of situational analysis. A person who understands it, and that way will never ask the question that the actions are delayed. Why? As an individual, let alone my country, let alone the responsibility you give me, I was in a position where I was unable to protect myself and my family. When the day you made me the Prime Minister to make me serve the country, the Ministry of intelligence and 3 other people were denied access to the palace. And I said, if you say these people are not fit, why do you even trust me? They said it's only the protection we give you that has to prevail. The office I work in is in the hands of this intelligence security. They open and close the door whenever I walk in and out. I was even unaware if there was surveillance camera recording in my room. I was unable to do a counter surveillance to check my office. They will just open the door in the morning, allow me to go in the office and go out. I was unable to discuss using my phone. I couldn't call Mr. Damaka for a discussion and so on. My office was controlled. Moreover, my office in general was under the control of other forces. Even the key to my house was controlled by these people. They opened the door and closed the door, morning and night. This is the scenario I was in when you said, why did he not take actions? So I was unable to safeguard the safety of my family, let alone you. It didn't stop there. I was a member of an army, so I started thinking if there were ways where I can escape. I started looking around the compound. When I asked if I can look around the compound, they said this is not usual for the Prime Minister to look around the compound. They said you go to the office and to your house. And they said when they said your house, it meant inside the house, not even in the premise. I said, I'm not only Prime Minister, I need to look around my compound. I need to see what's outside. This compound never had identified subcity Kabale, but there were plastics, small houses around it, elderly children, and those type of people around it. So it was not clear whether this was a palace or just a random house. It was surrounded by normal people, and I started asking, what are the roles of these people? What are they doing here? It was never clear. There were toilets everywhere, there were cottages everywhere in the compound, as if it was on the street. No one lives in those houses. So it wasn't a house and office, but I was also under a very dangerous situation. And that's what I understood. So I had to look outside. There was a place where they stored ammunition on the one side, on the other there were protections, on the other side there was a garage that has a lot of people, and down there were a national intelligence office outside of the law, the constitution, that has special forces. If I escape my office and my house, I can escape the compound. Even the compound is very difficult to leave. So the Prime Minister was basically stranded. In order to free myself from this cage, Honorable House, in order to fulfill the reforms you are requesting, the first discussion needs to be made with my family. And we said, well, this is prison. We can't go out of here and rule a country. So we decided and sent family back home. And considering that there would be killings, suppressions or anything, we started the first activities. not as a prime minister, but as an individual in prison, but who can appear in public on the media.
ይሄንን መንግስት ወይም በዚህ ሰው የሚመራው መንግስት ነው ለውጥ አታመጣም ወይ የሚል ጥያቄ የሚነሳ
You're asking this person to create a reform. And our comrade, including the Deputy Prime Minister, we started analyzing our situation. We said we can write and raise ideas, but if we start discussions with others, it will only reverse our ideas and actions. And we said, how can we make the change or reform people are asking for? And we said, let's follow a sandwich approach. Let's do away with the conventional assembly council. And we said the central administration should follow this approach, and we should communicate with the public and try to understand what they want. I'm expediting the story. We said, let's communicate with the people, let's sell our ideas to the people, and let's make the public the guardian, and let's make sure the people will stand on the side of the reform, and let's also share our ideas. After saying that, we made the first trip to Somali region. The reason is because the current danger was first designed in Somalia. More than 30,000 trained, armed special forces existed in that region with the idea to dismantle the country. Moreover, there were several displacements and killings before that, a month before that. So we said we need to heal that. When we asked to go to Somali region, the intelligence head said, you can't go. You can't go to Somali region. And I said, why? He said, Al-Shabaab is designing to kill you, so you cannot go to Somali region. First of all, I have experience on how information is fabricated, and also this intelligence only had the responsibility of giving me information that helps me make decisions, not make decisions for me. And whenever I asked why, he said the justification is Al-Shabaab will kill you. And my response were two. One, please give me information that helps making decision. And two, you did the major task. Your task is to identify there is a group that wants to kill me. So I said, protect me from these killers and let me do my job. Had you not known about it, it would have made my life very difficult. That now you know it, so protect me and I will do my job. Then I went to Somali region. We've had great time, we've discussed with the people. Coming back from Somali region, the second trip was to Mekelle. The people of Tigray at the time, given the condition, were affected like any other member of the people. So we approached the people and to alleviate any danger, we started discussing with their language. So we went to Mekelle, Tigray region, sorry. I was never told there is a special force. I went there, we've had a discussion, and the power of the junta was surprised, shocked. The people of Tigray received us very well, and the youths were in need of reform, so they supported. That's when they understood the approach, the sandwich approach. And after Mekelle, they said, we need to stop this. If it continues like this, they will isolate the people and it will be very dangerous. They have had their own discussions. My next trip was to Ambo. It was said I can't go to Ambo because Oneg will kill me, or Aleph will kill me. A month before that, I was there to discuss with the people that we're going to win, that we're going to change, we're going to have a reform. And they said, there is a force that will kill you, so don't go to OLF. I understood then. I said, it's not OLF or Al-Shabaab that will kill me. I said, it's the group within that will kill me. So we added additional forces and went to Ambo, security. We've had fruitful time in Ambo, and then we decided to go to Gondar and Bahar Dar. There was a Walqait committee. There were problems at the time, and they said they plan to kill you. We have their plan, and they said you can't go. Amara region administration were told to do the underlying activities, and we went. It wasn't only talking to people. The Walqait committee and the command committee, we sat them on a table and have had discussions, and from the discussion our disagreement between us and the intelligence grew, and they said, if you're having discussions with Walqait, you will not be having discussions with us. Following that, in the north, in the east, west, and also to some extent we've had discussions in Addis Ababa as well. So we started taking expedited decisions and actions. We started showing the people what they wanted to see. As you may remember, we were giving emergency news, breaking news, saying we have released someone, we have done this and that.
One is political prisoners that were then released. After they were released, they conducted a meeting in Addis Ababa, and they held the flag without the star. They were thrown back to jail again, not even a week in freedom. They were thrown back to prison, and I said, no, you should let them go. It's not right. If we arrest people for taking a flag without a star, there was a lot of controversy, but they were freed. And then concerning Ato Andarkacho Tsege, there was a request for his release. It was again very hot controversy involved. He said he's a dangerous person, he's facing trial, death penalty. There was a very strong resistance. Up until this moment, nobody knows who's the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister orders, issues an order, somebody throws it away. So we involved the Attorney General's office in this matter. So we made sure that Andarkacho Tsege was released, and when that was done, the situation got worse. It's either you or us. Very hard controversy and conflict, actually. So I said we cannot continue like this. So leaders of security, governments with their own army, media, and we cannot continue together. I decided that they need to be removed. So we decided to study the situation. Should we take measures on the defense force only, or on the security apparatus only? If we do that on these two entities, how dangerous would it be? When we studied the situation in some countries, the security head and our army head were removed, and there was a lot of destruction in some African countries. We had to learn from history and devise a way to avert destruction. And so when we were forced to do is to remove governments under a government, and that the institutions should remain at an institutional level. What I want to make clear here is at the moment, General Samora, the army commander-in-chief, had done his level best to avert the coup d'etat. Even after the change, he was very supportive and had a spirit of support. It's very clear, something we cannot deny. Though he was in support, we had to change the situation, so we had to honorably lead him to retirement. So we removed the commander-in-chief and also the security head. The response was different. General Samora's response was much better. His spirit of cooperation was there, but the institution had to go through reform, so we had to take measure after we took this action. The situation got worse and very clear. So the security head they stole various armaments and fled to Mekelle. What I want this parliament to understand is we don't even know what he took from that office. How much of the armament is stolen, we don't know, because the security entity had become a family entity and not really an organizational per se. What purchases have been done, where are the store, nobody knows, no information whatsoever. When I was told that Al-Shabaab would kill, there were information sent to me, but I never open postal offices. I never do that because it could prove to be costly, dangerous. The institution cannot even report, the security apparatus cannot even report what its own head did. So lastly, as you know, during the parade in support in Addis, there was an attempt on my life. When what that was done, the police, the defense force and the security all were there. A very, very close attempt on my life. That could have proven costly. It's also when we made that search, we find out that bombs, armaments were stolen from the security office. Even then, we didn't know the exact type of armaments, the number of armaments that were stolen. Armaments bought from Israel, silencing apparatus that could be used in assassinations. From that time onwards, this individual that used to be head of security office, we began conversing with the Tigrayan government, asking them at least he should return the armaments that he stole. And as you know, they have their own media, this individual, the Abai media, using government funds, of course. And even in the palace, he has his own soldiers. If I want to travel outside, I don't know what can happen on the air. I cannot trust the airplane. So if I do not have a liberty for myself, what can I do? This must be clearly understood by the parliament. It was not something easy. Things that I have not mentioned yet. The reason why I'm disclosing it, that we all to know exactly what we went through, and everybody, including the Ethiopian people, have a right to know history. So we said, well, let's conduct SSR, Security Service Reform. So we started with INSA, Security Office, the police, the defense force, the financial intelligence were included, and the reform process. We attempted on that. When we did that, security apparatuses, they're not even existent. They are just family organizations, incapable family members are gathered up in there. So it had to be literally demolished and redone. When we look at the defense force,
all right, that was the Prime Minister of Ethiopia. We'll keep a close eye on that. We'll monitor it. We'll give you the bigger takeaways later on. I want to take you directly now to the State Capture Commission of Inquiry, where we should hear the cross-examination of Pravin Gordhan by Tom Moyane. Let's go there now live.
Yes, are we ready?
We are, Chair. But before we get to today's business, I would like to correct an error I made in last week's questioning of Mr. Ramosabudi. On Friday evening, it was brought to my attention that in my questioning of Mr. Ramosabudi at the end of the session on Thursday, the 26th of November, Thursday session, I unintentionally referred to McKinsey as opposed to regiments in relation to kickbacks paid to shell companies set up by Salem Essa. And Chair, the transcript reference to where I accidentally and incorrectly referred to McKinsey is day 13, page 198, line 5. Day 13, page 198, line 5. So I need to apologize for my error both to you, Chair, and of course to McKinsey, and I need to set the record straight. So I'd like to do that and just make it very clear.
Yes.
There is a spreadsheet on pages 590 to 597 of Annexure VV4. That was the spreadsheet on which I was questioning Mr. Ramosabudi. That spreadsheet is a spreadsheet of revenue generated by the Regiment's Advisory Unit, not the McKinsey Advisory Unit. The kickbacks to Salem Essa shell companies reflected on that spreadsheet were kickbacks to be paid by regiments, not by McKinsey. In relation to that spreadsheet, I question.
Oops, we seem to have lost that link there to the State Capture Commission of Inquiry. We'll try to re-establish that link in a short while and go back there. The cross-examination of Minister Pravin Gordhan by the former SARS boss, Tom Moyane. So stand by for that. Previously, we just heard with regards to the Ethiopian Prime Minister talking there, addressing the Parliament, giving us, well, we were expecting an update with regards to Ethiopia and the situation in Tigray. Last week, the African Union envoys to Ethiopia, Joachim Chissano, former president of Mozambique, Kgalema Motlanthe, former president of South Africa, and Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, the former president of Liberia, undertook their first mission to Ethiopia. So stand by for that. We're monitoring that address to Parliament as well. We'll bring you the bigger takeaways in a short while. Let's return you now to the State Capture Commission for the cross-examination of Pravin Gordhan by Tom Moyane.
There are quite a few legal representatives present today for today's evidence and for what was planned for today, and I wonder if everyone might put themselves on record before I start today's proceedings. One of the representatives, Mr. Cockrell, is here with us on Zoom.
Well, I think let's take it step by step. I think your next application is for the postponement of the evidence of the other witness who was going to give evidence today, Mr. Williams, I think, and the other witnesses who were going to give evidence tomorrow and Wednesday and Thursday. If there are legal representatives representing those, then we can have those placing themselves on record before you move that application. But those who may be representing certainly Mr. Gordhan and whoever else in regard to Mr. Gordhan's cross-examination evidence, then they can place themselves on record when we get to what's going to happen today with regard to Mr. Gordhan's evidence.
Thank you, Chair. There are indeed representatives of the witnesses coming, Mr. Williams and witnesses coming later, or due to come later in the week.
Yes.
There are also representatives of interested parties in relation to those witnesses. And
yes.
I wonder if
they place on record.
I wonder if they might place themselves on record at this point.
Yes. Well, maybe you. Okay, yeah, you might do it from where you are if your microphone works. If it doesn't work, you might have to come to the podium. Or maybe let everybody come to the podium, then.
Good morning, Chair.
Good morning.
My name is Leaho Matabate, and I appear on behalf of Mr. Sipho Masego.
Yes.
He was an implicated party in Mr. Williams' statement.
Yes.
So we just want to place on record that we reserve our client's rights to cross-examine Mr. Williams should the need arise.
Yes, okay, all right. You will have to apply for leave,
Yes.
if you want to cross-examine.
Thank you,
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you.
Morning, Chair.
Good morning.
I am Advocate Patrick Ngujana. I am here with Mr. Ethel Williams. We have been informed that there will be this application to have his evidence postponed today.
Yes.
On account of the evidence leader was not available to deal with this evidence today.
Yes, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, I see Mr. Cockrell on the Zoom screen.
Oh, okay. Mr. Cockrell?
Thank you, Chair. Morning, Chair. Sorry, Chair, I'm on the Zoom feed, but I can't see you.
Yes.
I place myself on record. I appear for Bain & Company South Africa Incorporated. It's one of the entities that is implicated in Mr. Williams' evidence.
Yes.
Chair, my client has applied for leave to cross-examine Mr. Williams and has also applied for one or two other things. So may I simply place myself on record for purposes of those applications? Thank you, Chair.
Yes, well, I am not aware of the application for leave to cross-examine, but that doesn't mean the Commission hasn't received it. Things start somewhere before they get to me, but it's good if you make it, bring it to my attention.
I'd been engaging with Mr. Franklin before he took ill, and he is obviously well aware of that application.
Yeah.
We have been discussing some of the logistics, but obviously all of that has fallen away.
Yes. Okay, all right. Thank you. I think Mr. Mpofu wishes to speak to you.
Good morning, Chair.
Good morning, Mr. Mpofu.
Looks like I'm having a busy morning today. Chair, would also like to place on record that in relation to some of the witnesses who were meant to be here for the rest of the week, particularly Mr. Van Lochrenberg, Symington, Lakay, and I think Mr. Williams as well. We were informed of some of them on time, others only came last week. So we intend to apply for cross-examination.
Yes.
At this stage, I'm not sure if it's for all of them,
yes,
but I will discuss it with Mr. Franklin.
Yes, okay. No,
Thank
that's
you,
fine. Okay, all right.
Chair, that then brings me to the business of the day, and as several of the legal representatives have foreshadowed, I need to ask for a postponement of the evidence of Mr. Williams that was due to be called later today, together with the evidence of Mr. Flock Symington, who was due to testify tomorrow, Mr. Van Lochrenberg, who was due to testify on Wednesday, and Mr. Lakay, who was due to testify on Thursday. The reason for the requested postponement, Chair, is that the evidence leader of the Commission, who was dealing with all of these witnesses whose testimony relates to SARS, is Mr. Alistair Franklin, SC, and Mr. Franklin has come down ill yesterday and is not in a position to come to the Commission or to be present in the Commission today, and may well not be able to be present this week. We would ask that the evidence of those witnesses be postponed until, and to be set down at later dates as soon as we know what the condition of Mr. Franklin is and when he will be able to take that evidence. Specifically in relation to the witness, Mr. Williams, I'd like to apologize for the very short notice that he received of this postponement application, because he has in fact come up from Cape Town yesterday to be here today, and he wasn't notified before he came up, but I assure you, Chair, that this state of affairs happened only in the course of yesterday, and the Commission did its best to notify his attorneys as soon as it became clear that Mr. Franklin was not going to be available today.
Okay, no, that's right. I take it that all the other parties who will be affected by the postponement of the evidence of the witnesses you have mentioned have no objection to the postponement.
None that's been communicated to me, but maybe those persons present here can be asked if they have any.
Just say if there is any of them who is opposing, they can raise their hand. If they don't, then I will take that there is no opposition. There is no hand being raised, so there is no opposition.
It has been confirmed to me that Mr. Williams has no objection to the postponement.
Yes, okay, all right. So the hearing of the evidence of the witnesses that Mr. Chaskalson has mentioned, which was going to happen later today in the case of Mr. Williams, and tomorrow, Wednesday and Thursday in regard to the other witnesses, is postponed, and other dates will be fixed for them to come back and come and give evidence. Okay, thank you very much, and all inconvenience to all concerned is really regretted, but as Mr. Chaskalson says, the evidence leader who was going to lead those witnesses has fallen ill, and that only happened yesterday. Okay. Mr. Chaskalson.
Thank you, Chair. Apart from the evidence to be led by Mr. Franklin, Chair, today was scheduled for the cross-examination of Minister Gordhan by Mr. Mpofu on behalf of Mr. Moyani.
Yes, I see Mr. Gordhan has joined us. He was, I think, not on the screen when I greeted everybody. Good morning, Minister Gordhan.
Good morning, Mr. Person.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. Yes, Mr. Chaskalson.
And Chair, as this cross-examination is cross-examination by Mr. Mpofu and not by Mr. Franklin, we do not seek any postponement of this cross-examination from today. However, Chair, it will be necessary for me briefly to lead Minister Gordhan on his clarificatory affidavit, which he filed after